something you've been putting off. Maybe you say, someday I'll do that, or when I have more time. Whether the item is a big bucket list item or something smaller like going on a hike, now is the time to start your Say Yes list. And we have the perfect process to help you turn these items into reality. Join thousands of others with our free Say Yes list template at thesayesexperience.com/list. It'll help you stop living in that someday and start making those list items come true today. So download it now at thesayesexperience.com/list. Welcome to the Say Yes Experience podcast, where we inspire you to get out of your comfort zone and into possibilities. Our mission at the Say Yes Experience is to empower 10 million people to say yes. If you're new here, welcome. We're thrilled you're here. I'm Jessica Rector. I co-founded the Say Yes Experience with my then 9-year-old son Blaze, based off his idea to let's just say yes to things. I'm one of the top experts on burnout, and companies and conferences hire me to present on mental health, wellness, and burnout prevention. As a #1 best-selling author of 11 books, keynote speaker, and a burnout specialist, I've seen so much with our clients. The Say Yes Experience was started to help you really start living, to do the things that light you up, have more fun, and turn your dreams, or what we call Say Yes list items, into reality. So thank you for investing in yourself and being here. Now let's make it happen. One of the biggest stressors for people is finances, yet it's also a topic that they don't want to talk about. So we're going to dig deep into all things money by first discussing money mindset. It's the foundation of how we spend, how we save, and our ability to discuss finances. The more we explore our money mindset, which we all have, by the way, the better we can handle our money and have more of it. So thank you so much for being here today. We have a very special guest. We're going to talk all about money today. So please help me welcome my guest, Jessica Tomac. Thank you so much for being here, Jessica.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to sharing some information that we hope can help folks.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be kind of cool to be like saying Jessica. Come forth. So money is so important in everyone's lives, and oftentimes people may find that they don't have the money that they really want. But before we get into creating more money in our lives and creating better budgets around that, let's first talk about the foundational element, and that's our mind, getting our mind right around money. And we already know, Jessica, that this is going to be a long conversation. So we're going to break it down into 2 episodes. We're going to talk all about getting our mind and money mindset right in this episode. Then we also have an episode about creating finances and budget. So we're going to break it down because we know that this topic is so important to so many people. So let's talk about money mindset. Let's start with that, Jessica.
Yeah, so I think there's several different mindsets, and for you to be most successful with your money, you first have to identify why you think the way you think, or what is your mindset, right? And if I think about someone who is super frugal, right? They're afraid to spend anything because they think in a blink of an eye, the world might fall apart around them and they'll need that money. So they almost operate out of fear, out of lack. And that's one mindset that we see kind of happening to folks. It's almost as if they can't move forward, because if they did, then something could happen and they wouldn't have enough money then. But they build up money, they have money, but they're just so afraid to spend it. And then you have someone kind of on the other side of the spectrum, and they're just really free with their money. They think about, oh, it makes me feel good when I buy something. And so they're always spending all the time for this like short fuse of happiness, but then as soon as they put it into their shopping cart and paid for it, or maybe not even paid for it, that happiness is gone and they're on to the next item, right? So they're always trying to get stuff or spend money. And so that's, another mindset that we see around folks and their finances. And then you have the super generous person, right? And they will give it all away. When you talk and you hear that old cliche, they'll give the shirt off their back, literally. they give more than they have at times, right? So their passion is to help, but they will do it at their demise, right? They will go into debt, giving away stuff that they don't even have because it brings them so much joy to give away, but to the point that it's not healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've got, you never know, the frugal person, you've got the feel good, then you've got the person who really wants to avoid money, they want to stick their head in the sand. It's not good or bad. It's just, they don't plan. They worry about it when they need to worry about it, but that's never, because they're, it just, I laugh. You can just see this picture of them sticking their head in the sand, right? Just
Wow.
avoiding the problem, not addressing it, and doesn't want to be uncomfortable. So even if they're like, hey, I shouldn't buy that, but their friends are, they're like, oh yeah, I'm totally doing it, even though they have no idea where they'll get the money from, right? So you've got those folks. And then I think kind of the last group is really the people who are almost with that mantra of fake it till you make it, right? Maybe they are successful, but they're spending more money than maybe they should because they want people to believe they're super successful, right? They may even feel like they're a fraud on the inside, but they want that perception to be, well, they're doing really well. They have money and they're doing it really for show, not for any other reason. So when we think about the mindsets and how we see folks, I think most people will fit into one of those categories really strong, and then probably have one or two other things that are a part of them, but maybe not as strong.
So how does someone figure out which one they are if they're kind of like, well, I don't really know. Sometimes I could be this and sometimes I could be this. How do they really define that for themselves?
So I would give you a perfect example of the super frugal person who thinks the shoe could fall off at any moment. That is me, right? My gals at the office will tell you, man, we are successful, but I am always like, don't waste, right? I am the one that uses both sides of the sticky notes. You can't see it, but over here on a board, we have like sticky big posters, and I literally turn it over and stick it and use the other side too. If you're that frugal person who's like, I take my kids' school books and I use the other sides of them, then you know that's your thing, right? And then you have to figure out, how do you make yourself know that this is, you need to do other things, right? You can't just put it in not spend it. It's okay to do some things, right? And figure out how to work that. I think most people can identify where they are. I have a gal, she just loves to cook and bake and give stuff. Well, she's definitely the give it all away person, right? I think if you really do some self reflection, you're going to say one of these things stands out more than the other.
So I'm sitting there, as you're saying that, I'm sitting there thinking about myself, right? And I'm thinking, which one do I really identify with? And I'm kind of stumped because in certain situations, I see myself as a frugal person, right? I can see myself, I don't want to spend a lot of money eating out because my son Blaze, who's 10, he can go eat at McDonald's and he's perfectly okay with that. So I'm like, well, why do I want to go spend $50 on a meal when he's okay with a $2 cheeseburger, right? And when you're going and getting something to eat and it's quick, it's not, I'm not creating a real experience, right? When we're just quickly grabbing something to eat, it's not like we're going to a restaurant for an experience. So in certain situations, I'm like, well, I can see how I'm frugal. I don't like to spend extravagantly. Like, I'm also that person when he comes home at the end of the school year and he's used a fourth of the notebook paper. I'm like, well, we're ripping that off. And this is all this great unused paper that I can use for notes, that he can use for drawing, that, so when it's explaining that, I can see myself in certain situations. I don't want the lights left on in the house because that's just throwing money out the window, things like that I'm very much okay. But then I also take big trips, 30-day trips to Europe and Asia and these different places, and we go traveling. So like, Then I take these big trips, so me super frugal am I? So
But I
I'm
think
kind of stumped.
Yes, but I think you hit it on the head. My instinct is, and tell me if I'm wrong, when you have your super big trips, right? When you do
Yep.
your events, those are almost viewed as like treats or rewards or something special, and you've planned for them. It isn't you are not like literally packing your suitcase with no idea how much you're going to spend, where you're going to go. My instinct is you have it somewhat planned out and identified.
I have it somewhat planned out, as in I have a budget that I like to stay within each day. Maybe some days I go under that, some days I go over that, but I roundabout going in, I have a roundabout number of how much I want to spend on hotel each night, about how much we'll spend in activities or food each day. So there's some kind, I mean, I'm not just going willy-nilly and saying, well, we're just going to do whatever. I mean, there's some kind of budget, idea that I have. I'd like to kind of keep within this. And, certain situations I can be a little flexible, but it always in the end, washing out about what I planned it for.
Yeah. So I do feel like that's your tendency, but you've done a good job of not diving in 100% into that. You've realized, hey, which is something that I always have to remind myself and work on. Hey, it's okay to do this. It's okay to, plan these adventures with your kids. We just did Italy, right? So these are great things that we went and enjoyed, but we had a plan, kind of like you said, we had a budget. It wasn't, and then I don't feel bad that I spent this money, right?
Yeah,
But I think with
exactly.
all of those tendencies, like you've really learned, like, okay, you're not going to be super wasteful. You're going to be frugal on 90% of things, and then you're gonna give yourself this flexibility to have fun and do other things.
And I don't know. Maybe I'm hung up on the word frugal, like that word, because I feel like it has a negative connotation. And I like what you just said better. I'm not being wasteful. Like,
Yeah.
we work hard for our money. So I don't want to just be throwing it out and saying money is not important. We're just going to leave the lights on everywhere, and who cares? I'm giving my money away to the electric company, right? So
Right.
maybe I just prefer to use the word and not being wasteful. I'm being conscious of how I'm spending my money and where it's going, and I would rather have more money in my pocket. So that's what. And so for me, I feel like it's wasting money in certain situations if I'm not using it what I consider wisely, right? And I think maybe I'm just hung up on the word frugal, and I'm like, frugal? Like, there's places, my friend says that you're so frugal. I'm like, there's places I spend my money. I just don't want to spend it hazardly. I don't want to spend it where I don't know, where I don't feel like the value is there and worth it. So once someone identifies where they are, what's next? So once they say, yes, this is me, this is screaming my name, they move from there. What's next for them?
Yeah, so in every one of those phases, it's a little bit different. So for the and it's interesting. So it's totally that mindset for word for you. That word frugal is a negative connotation. For me, the word is cheap, right? Like, I'm not cheap. I like nice things, right? So I use frugal because to me, but maybe I should switch that to not being wasteful. I'm not wasteful.
I like that's just what I prefer better. It's
right,
in my mind,
right.
like you, I don't like the word cheap. I am not cheap. Like, I have
Yeah.
plenty of money. I'm not going around being cheap. I'm just being mindful of how I'm spending that money.
Yeah. And so I think for that person who is not wasteful or frugal, right, then they have to carve in effort and time to allocate monies to do things as special things, something that brings them joy, whatever that is, and know that that's okay, right? And to give themselves permission to spend it, not thinking that the shoe is going to fall off or something, they can't do it, right? For the person who sticks their head in the sand and doesn't want to address anything, well, okay, the problem is they have to address it. Then for them, they really need to start tracking. What am I spending? What do I have coming in? that will kind of go into this whole budgeting thing. But where are they? Oftentimes they have no idea of even where they're at. For the massive giver, give the shirt off your back person. Great, this is an amazing trait. I love that people can do that. However, there is a realm in which it's financially healthy, and then a realm in which it is not. So really taking a portion of your income and then determining what part of that am I going to utilize to give away. It cannot be all of it, or you can't sustain yourself.
Right. That's so true.
Really understanding it's great to give. Awesome. I suggest we all do that. But where is your limit, right? Where is your amount? And then try to stay within that, or do it differently, right? You've got your time, money, or treasure. You can give in many different ways.
Do you want to start saying yes, but you just don't know where to start? And oftentimes when we don't know where to start, we just don't start. So we created an ebook just for you. We put together 101 ways to say yes. In this ebook, ideas big and small, things that only take a small amount of time, like 1 to 2 minutes. Whether you're saying yes to yourself, in your family, relationships, or pushing yourself lovingly outside of your comfort zone with adventures, it's all made to really help you become more of your rock star self. So you can get this ebook at thesayyesexperience.com/book, BOOK. So if you want to start saying yes, or maybe you need some ideas on how to say yes because you get so caught up in being busy and doing tasks and projects or doing laundry and cooking that the time flies by and you want to spend time with your family, but you just don't know how to say yes. Those ideas just don't come to you. We put it together to make it super, super easy for you. So go to thesayyesexperience.com/book to get your copy today and start saying yes now. Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or burned out? We get it. You're not alone. In fact, according to our research, 79% of the workforce is in burnout, and almost half are in extreme burnout. In fact, it's the number one reason why people are leaving organizations. They're burned out. They're looking for something more. They're looking for something better. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have your solution. It's called Blaze Your Brain to Extinguish Burnout. 52 keys to prevent, break through, and eliminate burnout. You can find your copy at justcorrector.com/store. Now, this is a great tool that you can use with yourself, with your colleagues, within your organization. Everyone can get one, and you can go through one a week with them. And at the end, you can say, what was something that worked this week? What was a success you had? So you can champion and encourage each other. You can also ask what were the challenges and issues that came up, so you can mastermind and brainstorm around those to keep those from coming up in the future. So make sure you get your copy at justcorrector.com/store. All books are autographed with a personal message just for you.
So Jessica, do you find the person who keeps their head in the sand, does that tend to happen if you have two people in a relationship where one person is more in charge of finances and the other person may not know exactly what's going on? Or do you also find that that happens with single people? As you're saying that, I'm just thinking, I don't know as a single person how I would keep my head buried in the sand and not know anything about my finances because it's solely 100% dependent on me.
So I can tell you both do it. And yes, as a person who is astute to their finances, we would very much know if we're running positive or negative. But these folks with their head in the sand, they don't, right? They literally have no idea when the credit card bill, and they're like, oh, I have no idea how I have a $3,000 credit card bill. Like, it's a surprise to them, even though they're the only ones that charged on it, right? And they only have $1,000 of income, but it's a shock to them, right? It's a shock to them how they get behind on their car payments and how they get behind. Like, it's astounding. They have like the comment literally is, I have no idea how this happened. Okay, right? Clueless. Sometimes you get that with, couples right? One's handling the finances, the other person chooses not to know. But I do find that that's usually less
Really?
happening,
Okay.
unless the person controlling the finances is the stick your head in the sand person, and then it's a complete train wreck.
Wow. Okay. See, I would have thought that happens more in couples because one person handling the finances and the other person's like, I have no idea what's going on with the finances. Okay, so that's super interesting. So how do they, once they identify where they are, you have to then kind of figure out the next steps. And we're going to talk more about budget a little bit later in another episode. So we're going to talk about that. But how do you go from where you are now to where you want to be?
Yeah, and I think a great starting point is you have to know where you're going, right? Where is it that you want to be? If today you're in a bunch of debt, okay, well, what do you want that to look like in a year from now? If today you're not doing any vacations and you're just seeing your bank account grow, great. What do you want next year to be if you could write your own ticket, right? If you could have that vision of what you want your future to be, what would it be that you're writing? For that person that gives it away, like maybe it's to give away more. Okay, great. But then we have to figure out what you have to get in to be able to give that away.
Right. Oprah said one time that she's interviewed successful people from everywhere. And she said the number one trait that she's found successful people have is they know where they're going. Even if you don't know exactly how you're getting there, you know where you're going. And because then you can start to take steps to actually get there. But if you don't know where you're going or where you want to be, then it's kind of just haphazard. What I also find interesting, Jessica, is that we spend, and I say this as a collective we, like just people in general, spend so much money on eating out. I'm just going to spend $5 at Sonic. I'm going to spend $8 at Starbucks. I'm going to spend, and then at the end of the month, you go, have no idea how I spent that much. Or I'm just going to buy this quick thing on Amazon because it's so quick these days, right? I'm just going to buy these $40 shoes, this $60 shirt. You don't think about it because it's just right there at your fingertips, right? If you're keeping track of all that, then you get the $3,000 bill. Do you find that to be the case, that people are spending without really figuring out where money is going?
100%, right? And in fact, at one point I had Amazon Prime, and to your point, it's easy. Oh, we need batteries. Click, it's here, right? Oh, we need this. Click, it's here. And my kids one day said to me, Mom, there's a smiley face on a box on our doorstep almost every day. And I was like, oh my, that's terrible. But to me, that was frightening. I was like, I am canceling that subscription because they make it so easy to spend money. They make it really convenient. A lot of people, they have no idea. Many people don't use cash anymore, right? So back in the old days, you only use cash. When the green stuff ran out, you were done spending.
We're done.
Well, now they've got plastic. The plastic goes in, the plastic goes out, and then the bill comes. Maybe this month they can pay it off. I mean, there are people making high six figures that can't pay off their credit card bill each month.
Oh, so give us an example of why that is, or looks like. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so it surprised them, right? They're this couple I'm thinking of. They are the instant gratification, right? They're the person who's just buying something, and then 30 seconds later, after they bought it, we need something different, right? Something better came out, something whatever. And so they did a big trip, they did this, they did that, and they can always pay the minimum payment, but they can't always pay the bills, right? And when you're making six figures and high six figures, you shouldn't be living like that. They have no idea that cash flow in the house. And when I start breaking down, well, this is where your money's going, they're appalled, right? I've had folks come in and we break things apart. And I said, okay, if you think about all your housing, the rent, the utilities, all the bills included with your housing, you're spending 3 times as much on food. There's 2 of you. Why is that happening? I had no idea, because to your point, it's just $5 for that coffee. Oh, it's just $7 for this. But every day that adds up. And when both of you are doing it and no one's paying attention because we make good money, so we deserve it, well, that's not a great plan.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it just reminds me, I went into Starbucks the other day and I literally was like, pumpkin bread went up $1.50, and I thought, $4.10 for one slice of pumpkin bread. You to be kidding me. That's ridiculous. Now, I was on a business trip, so I said, okay, and I hadn't had breakfast, but I thought, like, $1.50, well, no, $1.15, because it used to be $2.95. And I thought $1.15, it went up. I know everything's going up. Just one piece of pumpkin bread.
Yeah. You can bake a whole loaf for $3, right?
So very cognizant of those type of things. So it always fascinates me to learn about other people. Now, where do you say our money mindset comes from? Because it comes from different places. And how can we peel that back and figure out, like, where does it come from and what's at the core of that in order for us to change it?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it depends on things that happened either in your childhood, how you grew up with money, circumstances maybe around that. So when I started peeling back my onion, kind of looking at why am I like this, right? But my parents were young parents. They filed bankruptcy. We never had money. It was always, late bills and just problem. And I was always fearful, right? So I would just hoard because what if something bad happened? I would have the money. So I think if we think about circumstances, those are impactful of your childhood for sure. And then maybe I have folks that maybe their childhood, they got everything, right? And maybe they're part of this crazy spenders because they didn't have to work for it. It just, the bills got paid. And now that they're adulting, no one's paying those bills for them anymore. And they haven't figured out, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. So they're kind of going through that process, and sometimes it's a life event, right? In some cases, folks had been really responsible with money, and then maybe they get married, their spouse has a different view on money and finances. So instead of clashing and working through and coming to a middle ground, they say, peace out, you handle it, I'm done. And then a life event happens and they don't have the money, and then all those things come to an ugly head.
Oh my gosh, lots of different scenarios. And it's also a process. Like when you find out which one of those you identify with, those personalities that we talked about that you identify with, it's also a process, because your habit and the pattern that you've developed will be to go back to that person. So it has to be first something that you're conscious and aware of. Now, this is how you tend to look at money, and then taking steps to change that. Taking steps depending upon which one of those you are, taking steps to change that, and to be conscious of it all the time when money is going out, because if not, you'll fall back into the pattern. I've been there for so long. So we have to be conscious of it. We have to be aware of which one we are, conscious of how we're spending that money or saving that money or reflecting on money in order to take those steps to change it. Now, when people can't do that themselves, they can work with someone like you. So tell us a little bit how that helps your clients working with you and kind of getting their mindset right.
Yeah, so I think sometimes having that accountability partner who's not emotionally invested in your household per se, it's just black and white, it's just numbers, right? And to have that coach, I often have times where a husband and wife are at odds about what to do, and I'm the, well, ask Jessica. Did you ask Jessica? Because whatever Jessica says, that's what we have to do. Because it's a third party, right? And sometimes the spouses get mad and say, I've been saying the same thing for like 2 months, and you say it and it's the gospel, right? So they get really upset, but it's just a different person who might be saying the same thing. but it feels different, right? Maybe from your spouse, it's naggy, but from a financial coach person, it isn't. It's just, here's what I need you to do, right? Here's what your next step is, and we're going to work on it. And you're not going to be perfect. And those old tendencies are always going to keep coming around. But the key is each time they do, try to identify it a moment faster, right? Because they don't stop. They are in you.
Mm-hmm. There's also ways to work through them with help like you. And also, we're going to talk about budgets and what we can do in our own lives to get a better handle on our money, to know where our money is going, so we can actually be more financially stable, more financially successful, however you want to label it, to have a handle on our finances to set us for success now and also in the future. So I look forward to talking more about budgets with you and helping people with that. And then also we're going to talk about how we can keep having these conversations with our kids as well, which is really important. So kids become more mindful of the money, and then also how some of that mindset that we're going through with ourselves as an adults can be passed on to our kids. So we'll see you in that one. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Are you ready to move to your next level of rockstar greatness? CFO, Chief Fun Officer, #1 best-selling author, and keynote speaker Blaze Rector is ready to help you do that. At just 10 years old, he's already written 2 #1 best-selling books. Through the power of storytelling, he uses lessons learned and shares strategies, tips, tactics, and tools to inspire, empower, and motivate you to live a more amazing life. So if you're ready to do that in your own life, grab a copy of his #1 best-selling books at jessicarector.com/store. And when you order your copies, he will personally autograph them and write you a message on those books before shipping them out to you to really inspire and empower you in your life. These books are great for adults and kids alike. So if you're ready to move to your next level of rockstar greatness, make sure you grab your copy at jessicarector.com/store. Enjoy those amazing, empowering, transformational books. Did you know that the 2 biggest issues impacting the workforce are mental health and burnout? Well, we have your solution. The more that you feel burned out, the more it impacts your mental health. The more your mental health is impacted, the more it leads to burnout. So it's a vicious cycle that goes around and around, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can help them both if you're intentional and strategic with it. We have lots of resources for you at jessicarector.com/store. One that I want to highlight that really enhances your mental health is Tame Your Brain Game, 52 tips to turn negative thoughts into positive action. Now, research shows that 80% of your thoughts are negative. No matter how positive you feel, it's the pattern and the habit that you've developed over the course of years, over the course of decades. And that can often impact your life, how you show up, how you lead, how you communicate, how you engage, whether at work or at home. And then it also impacts a work environment. All you need is one NN or TT, negative Nancy or toxic Tim, to really impact that work environment. So if you are ready to enhance your mental health, get your copy of Tame Your Brain Game, 52 tips to turn negative thoughts into positive action today at jessicarector.com/store. All books are autographed with a personal message just for you. Thank you so much for being here. Check us out at thesayyesexperience.com. Our mission at the Say Yes Experience is to empower 10 million people to say yes. With your help in sharing our podcast, we can do that. Follow us on all social media at the Say Yes Experience and join our free community at facebook.com/groups/the Say Yes Experience. Thank you again to our guest. You can find all the contact information for our guest in the show notes. Thank you to our CFO, Chief Fun Officer, Blaze Rector, our business advisor, Lisa Bahurick, and to our team at Jessica Rector Enterprises. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Have an amazing day and keep being a rock star.